Hi and welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you haven't, my name's Amanda Howard and this is a body language video. I'm a criminologist by education and training. I also have written many books on true crime, as well as host a podcast, Monsters Who Murder, which is the channel that you're on right now. So I've been doing some body language videos, and this is the next one in the series, and this is on Brian David Mitchell, the man who kidnapped Elizabeth Smart. I'll leave a link to the Wikipedia page about the case down below, just so then we can focus today on the man's body language. So let's see what we can find. So this video we're about to watch is, as you can see on the screen, he was interviewed in 2003. This is just after he had been arrested for the kidnapping, and they had already spoken to Elizabeth Smart. So they actually had the entire story. So often when we do interrogations on our podcast, I often talk about the body language that I can see, and we're also there trying to get the full story from the person, but usually we do killers. So it is basically that person's story only, because obviously the victims can't talk for themselves. But this one, because they have the victim and they know the entire story, well, Brian David Mitchell is really just there to sort of tick some boxes, because they need to get his side of the story. And this is one of those interrogations that I was a little worried that it might have gotten violent, well, more so than it actually does. So let's start and have a look.
This is Jeff Ross. He's with the FBI. Detective Parks.
Now, unfortunately, the quality of this video is, like most others, very, very poor. But we will do what we can with what we have. So those tiny nuances and micro expressions we are going to miss, but the larger ones we will be able to see.
Go on, have a seat.
Okay, to begin with, let's look at everyone's positions, because these will actually change, and this is often part of a choreography that a lot of interviewers actually do, and it's a good one to do. Now we have a sheriff and an FBI agent. That the taller man on the left-hand side of the screen is the FBI agent, and the other man is a sheriff. The sheriff is actually from Salt Lake City himself, so he knows his Mormonism quite well, and that will actually make a play into it. But right now, as you can see, they're both sort of huddled around their pieces of paper. The FBI agent, I think his name was David Ross, I think they just said, he is about 6'10". He's really, really tall. So it looks like right there that he's sitting in a really tiny chair, but that's actually just because he's really tall. Now, focusing on Brian David Mitchell, he's sitting back in his chair. He's not rigid. He's actually sort of collapsed back into it. His hands are sitting loose and both of his feet are spread apart and resting on the floor. There's no sort of other position. We'll note to see if he does rock, if he sits still, if he maintains this position. But this is him sitting down, expecting to use religious fervor as his reasoning for everything, but it's actually not going to play the way he wants it to. Now, we've actually done the interrogation breakdown completely on the podcast, and so I urge you to go and watch that. This is more about just picking up bits and pieces as we go through the interview, not sort of going through every 3 seconds, which I would love to do, but that's not what we're here for.
What's your last name?
Isaiah.
How do you spell Isaiah?
I-S-A-I-A-H.
And first name?
Emmanuel.
How do you spell?
So as we see instantly, he's not giving his real name. He's saying he's Emmanuel Isaiah, a religious name, not the birth name he was given. He's already started to swing on the chair. This doesn't appear to be a nervous twitch just yet, but it may turn into one. But what we're seeing is he's sort of turning the chair to sort of face the people he's speaking to, but we will keep an eye on that chair.
Spell it.
I-M-M-A-N-U-E-L.
Your middle name?
David. D-A-V-I-D.
What's your birthday?
10/8/1969. 1853.
Now, he was quick to respond with his name, but then when he's asked his date of birth, there was a minute pause. Okay, just listen for it again.
What's your birthday?
1853.
As you can see, that was about a 3-second pause, which is quite momentous. So that is, sometimes people pause. Like if someone asks me my date of birth, I can blurt it instantly. I don't have to think. Even the kids, I can do that too, and most people can. But the way he's paused, it means that by handing over that information, they'll be able to do their crime checks and find what other outstanding warrants he has. So by giving a fake name, he has no qualms in doing that. But giving his real date of birth, he thought about not giving the right one, maybe giving a fake one, maybe worrying about what they're going to find with this date of birth. So yeah, it's just an interesting first pause, and they would have both noticed how quickly he did that, and he said it fast and very, very quietly.
What's your address?
My home is heaven. That's the only address I can give you.
So his home is heaven. I promised I wasn't going to do it every 3 seconds, but we may start there because the opening and then midway and then the end scene are the ones that we're going to focus on the most. This instantly sort of says to them, okay, we're going to go down the religion route. He's given 2 biblical names. Now he's saying that his home is heaven. But watch his hands when he says it.
My home is heaven. That's the only address.
So that open hand position he does there, that is an offering. So this is what people do when they sort of want you to believe what they're saying. So it's a welcoming sign, but it's also a, come closer because this, this has to be a connection. You often see politicians when they're out there facing the heat, they often do this sort of pose. They train not to point, and I've actually done a few videos on things like pointing. So this is something that you often see. Just think about like when you ran to your parents as children, your parents put their arms out to take you in. When you go and see Santa at the shopping center, Santa puts his hands out like that. It's a welcoming gesture, and it's about showing, it's basically that there's nothing up my sleeve sort of interpretation. The sheriff starts reading Mitchell his rights, and as they get towards the end, look how his position changes from what's on the screen right now to, you'll see in a second.
Present with you while you're being questioned. Do you understand that? If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish. Do you understand that?
Mm-hmm.
You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions.
So a hand gesture like this is you're wasting my time, I'm bored. If you're conducting a meeting and people are sitting around the table like that, wind it up. People are done and they're over. This is a it's not worth me using my energy to even hold up my head because this is dull and boring and I don't want to be here. His other hand is now, I was going to say on his lap, but it's basically in his crutch. Legs are still wide and he's still actually rocking the chair. I can imagine that he's probably quite smelly as well, but these two sort of don't take notice of it just yet, but he's quite grotty, quite dirty. And yeah, he's not giving off the aura of the chosen one, let's say that. So it starts very quickly into the sermonizing of his responses to everything. Both of the officers in the room are giving their attentions to it, but then we get our first movements from the officers.
You work with by the power of the Holy Ghost. You work on her heart that she knew that I was the Lord's true servant.
So you converted her to your way of thinking?
I didn't convert.
So that was an aggressive move by Ross. So he's pulling himself back quite hardly. So Mitchell, it's quite hard to hear, and I understand that. But Mitchell's actually just said that he had converted Elizabeth Smart to his own religion, and so that was Ross's response of disgust. So it was a sudden move. It was quite sort of reactive. And so it was more about how would Mitchell react to that move. So let's go back and see how he responds.
The Lord's true servant.
So you converted her to your way of
I
thinking?
didn't convert her to anything.
So as you can see, there was no response at all to that. So he didn't jump. He didn't think, oh, what's about to happen? So, but it's things like this that detectives and FBI and sheriffs and that often do to sort of create a heightened sense of awareness in the person being interviewed. Because if you keep them on their toes, they actually have a lot less time to sort of relax and try and answer these questions when they're trying to tell a lie and they're actually trying to keep that story straight. It's very hard to do if something keeps happening to avert your attention.
The world.
So as you can see, the video has been going for about 5 minutes. And now they're actually going to bring up Mitchell's real name again to see how he responds.
Right?
Yes.
You did go by the name of Brian David Mitchell, did you not?
To ask me what I was.
Did you see the pause? So he's thinking that they aren't prepared for all of this, but these guys don't do their homework, and the sheriff is going to go Bible verse to Bible verse with Mitchell, and he's going to blow him out of the water. Mitchell is nothing compared to this sheriff in theology. But just watch how long it takes him to respond to your name is Brian David Mitchell.
Secular world, right?
Yes.
You did go by the name of Brian David Mitchell, did you not?
1, 2, 3, 4.
To ask me what I was, who I am.
The hand on the heart. One of the greatest, please believe me, I'm a person of pure traits and I'm, I'm just a simple soul, hand on your heart. I'm not telling a lie. That's your first sign of telling a lie.
Is like that. To ask me if I'm someone other than who I am.
Mm-hmm.
You see, to place me in a position where I am not.
Also, I'll say this once, I promise I won't say it again, but he's doing a Charles Manson 101, double speak, let's say what we want to in 12 different ways without actually answering the question. Something that happens a lot with a lot of these people who think that they're in charge. They never give you an answer. Instead, they sort of return it like almost a self-reflective psychology class. It's quite BS, basically.
In other words, I've forsaken the world and all of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a new creature in Christ.
Now, Ross is quite hyperactive, and I'm surprised he hasn't been charged with intimidation. But anyway, it will come to pass. But as you can see, the sheriff, and I really wish I had his name. Actually, I will look it up because it's embarrassing not to have it. Okay, so back.
It says
His
immaterial to
name
ask
is
me
Corden Parks.
or to answer such a question because it's absolutely immaterial.
Okay, well, it's not immaterial to us, so please bear with us. And
I understand
It's so exhausting for him to have to go through this and tell them that he's not Brian David Mitchell, that he is Emmanuel Isaiah and he lives in heaven. Let's go for the crazy plea. Yeah, no. Now they get to talking about Elizabeth Smart. So it's very rare for an interrogation to start this quickly into talking about the victims and everything. Usually they sort of do a bit more benchmarking for ticks and movements that will sort of give them telltale signs of lying and non-lying. We've already seen that his lying is to take those pauses. And we're going to see it again and again. And here is one of the ones I'm expecting him to pause here, but we will see.
that question.
It's very relevant. How old is she?
She's 18.
Not
What would
so
make you believe she's 18?
so slow, but was still 2
Because the Lord has
seconds.
said she is such.
The Lord God Almighty told you that she's 18 years old?
Okay. So Parks here has just sort of thrown another curveball at him, saying, so the Lord told you that she was 18, and he instantly put his hand to his throat. This is a response of, oh my God, This is, I do it a lot. I'm someone who sort of plays with, as if even if I don't have a necklace on or do, I often have my hands here because this is a comfort thing. So he's actually doing this in a similar way, that you know, of course she's over age, and of course I wouldn't do anything if she was underage, and God telling me that she's 18, it's just all part of his facade, and it will continue like this. But as you can see, he did pause. It was only for 2 seconds that time, but he did pause before answering that question. But as you can see, he's starting to get a little more agitated with his movements, but he's still sitting slouched down in the chair. So when he sits up, you're going to know that that's when he knows he's in a lot of trouble, not so much now. I mean, he knows he's in trouble, but he's still so he knows he's in a lot of trouble, but there is a lot of people who go into these interviews like Jodie Rice I did the other day on a video like this, and they think they're going to get away with it. So they're actually going there to appear calm and collected, and yeah, we're just doing this for clarity and everything. But there's nothing that I did that was wrong. So when they start to sit straighter and straighter, that is when they realize that they're sort of readjusting for that fight or flight. But this is his first movement that we have here with the hand to the throat. That's just sort of showing that he's a little bit agitated and he's trying to self-soothe, but at the same time, he's just trying to appear as shocked as everyone else is that, he wouldn't do this to a young girl.
That's a yes or no question.
Yes.
Okay. Did you marry her?
But you say 18. You say 18.
Brian, just listen.
I'm not. That's not who I am.
Emmanuel, listen.
So that is a denial there. So he's saying that he's not a pedophile because she wasn't underage. So I don't think this even sort of crossed his mind that they're actually going to get him for these sorts of charges as well.
Did you marry her?
I didn't marry her, but she's still to me as my wife. Yeah.
She's still to you as your wife. Have you had sexual intercourse with her?
Those are very personal, private questions.
Mm-hmm. Another pause there as well.
That's a very relevant question. Did you have sex with her, yes or no?
You told me I could have an attorney present. I am my attorney.
Person who represents themselves has an idiot for an attorney, or whatever that quote is. Yeah. People think they're smart. 101, if you are arrested for anything, say, I want a lawyer. Never say anything. Don't confirm your name. Don't confirm date of birth. Don't confirm anything. You say, I want a lawyer. Because all these people think they're smarter than the police because they know their story. What they don't know is that the police have heard every story and they know how to play this game better than you do. So not that I'm telling people that they should go out and kill people and then ask for an attorney. What I'm actually saying is that you're not smarter than two cops who do this as a job. Yeah, there's no way I would sit in an interview room without an attorney present.
You are your own attorney?
Presently I am. Okay, presently I am. I'm defending myself, am I not? These
Yes,
questions can be used against me, correct?
That's correct, they can be.
Okay.
Well, let's just cover the basics, okay?
Okay.
Did you take Shirar Jeshub? Is that
Shir Jeshub, Esther Isaiah is her name. Shir Jeshub, Esther Isaiah.
I'm sorry, Emmanuel, I just can't pronounce that. I'm just going to call her Elizabeth, okay?
Shir Jeshub.
Okay, really clever technique there by the officers. They know exactly how to say that name. They've probably rehearsed it 10 times or heard it multiple times as Elizabeth told them the story. So by using his name as Brian or as Mitchell and using her name as Elizabeth, this is about punching him below the belt. So this is, we're just going to do this and do this because we're going to prove that she's not your 18-year-old wife, that she's a little girl that you have defiled after kidnapping her. This next thing I know, I said I wasn't going to go and break down the interrogation, but I kind of am at the same time. So they're now about to ask him to justify what he is saying under his religious beliefs. But what he doesn't know is that Parks knows his Mormon Bible better than Mitchell could ever imagine.
Two of us.
Right.
So what I was hoping is maybe you could explain it in a way that we can understand
Well,
it.
you want answers that you can use against me. You know you do.
Well, not only that, but understand
And
this.
you say you want to know the truth.
True, we do.
Okay? But the truth will set you free. It will set all men free.
Let me just say,
When Jesus Christ was questioned, his
Mhm.
answers didn't please them either. They were very angry with him.
Excuse me, you were once LDS. You consider Joseph Smith to be a true prophet of God?
Joseph Smith is a true prophet of God.
And he wrote the 13 Articles of Faith?
Yes, he did.
And what was the 13th Article of Faith?
Sir?
We believe in being subject to the laws of the land. Is that not what the 13th Article of Faith says?
Yes, it did.
So great there. Ross is like, huh? I don't understand any of this. But Parks is telling him that if he wants to go toe to toe, he can. And instantly he made Mitchell dumbfounded because he says, do you know what the 13th, whatever it is? And Mitchell is like, huh? So amazing. Love it. This is amazing that Parks is sort of really, really good on his Bible. And Ross had no idea what was happening then. But then Parks comes in again with his, do you know your 13, whatever, values of faith or whatever, and what the 13th rule is. And he gets Mitchell because Mitchell didn't know. And so he's just sort of shot across the desk, basically. He's just said to him, you want to play this game. I'm well prepared. I don't need the gun on my hip because I've got the Bible in my brain. So let's just watch Mitchell's response again, and watch Ross a bit too as he goes from Parks to Mitchell, because he's like, I don't know where this is about to go, but I'm intrigued.
You were once LDS. You consider Joseph Smith to be a true prophet of God?
Joseph Smith is a true prophet of God.
And he wrote...
Before we get to that, did you see how quick, I'm sorry, I'm doubling up now, how quick Mitchell responds to that about Smith? Hang on.
You consider Joseph Smith to be a true prophet of God?
Joseph Smith is a true prophet.
Very quick.
And he wrote the 13 Articles of Faith?
Yes, he did.
And what was the 13th Article of Faith?
Sir?
We believe in being subject to the laws of the land. Is that not what the 13th Article of Faith says?
Yes, it
Now watch Mitchell's face. Okay, yeah, it is really, really blurry, but you watch him go from open and happy to a drop dead face.
The 13 Articles of Faith?
Yes, he did.
And what was the 13th Article of Faith?
Sir?
There.
We believe in being
God.
subject to the laws of the land. Is that not what the 13th Article of Faith says?
Yes, it is.
Then all we want to know is if you've been faithful to your own beliefs, have you been faithful to the laws of the land?
So it's interesting when someone feels troubled and trapped, as Mitchell should actually feel, they ground themselves. So they usually sort of sit forward in their chairs. They put both legs on the floor to make sure that they're sort of grounded. It's a tripod position sort of thing where you want as much earthing as you possibly can. Yeah, in this case, Mitchell's gone the opposite. So Mitchell's put his feet up. So he is lounging around like they're asking him, what did he have for dinner last night? It's not the response he should be showing. And so this sort of gives them an idea that they're not going to see what they expect to see with this person being interviewed. So yeah, it's hard to explain, but you see as it goes forward, this is I'm dying to do Manson in the body language thing, because he will be different as well, because there are rules that we all sort of innately follow. But what we have here is someone actually doing the opposite to what they should be doing. So it sort of tells us that some of these signs are going to be erroneous, because a normal person wouldn't react this way, but Mitchell does.
What was Jesus Christ accused of?
I'm not talking about Jesus. I'm talking about you.
I have been absolutely faithful to the righteous laws of this land. Amen, I have.
Okay.
Because all righteous laws flow from God, but not all laws are righteous, and not all laws come from God. And the Constitution of the United States was founded on righteous principles. But when you read the book of Emmanuel David Isaiah, you'll come to understand that this nation has become the most corrupt and evil nation on the face of the earth.
Because let's actually focus on something like a child kidnapping and deprivation of liberties and sexual assault, when we can talk about the corrupt world and that his Bible will have all the proper answers of how to change the world. Now, this rhetoric goes for quite a while, and then Ross, who's actually been quiet but taking notes every so often. Ross is actually left-handed. I have a thing about spotting left-handers. It's just really odd. You know, it's obvious if they are or they aren't, but it's just something I seem to sort of take notice of. But anyway, Ross decides that he has to interject because Parks has been going toe-to-toe with Mitchell for quite a while.
Fine Constitution and Christians coming here for religious freedom. And
Well, let's get back to Elizabeth Smart.
Okay, because this sounds more like a political debate than.
not political.
It's-
There's nothing unpolitical.
Well, let me just put this right on the table.
There's nothing unpolitical.
So far, I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe it's because I grew up outside of Utah and I'm not familiar with all this, religious stuff. But you need to bring it down to a level so that I can understand it. Because this stuff you're talking about, and how it relates to Elizabeth and how she ended up being taken from her home. And let me just say this: for the past 9 months, that family has gone through hell.
He's like, oh, I'm saying I know nothing about religion, and then I'm actually going to make a reference. I loved how Ross paused there. It was just so funny. But back to the seriousness of it. Ross is basically saying any sort of religious vitriol that you're going to bring up, I'm basically going to ignore. So there's no use. Just let's get to the proper story.
You do understand
I
that?
understand that very much.
I mean, their whole family has been torn
I
apart,
understand that.
and I can tell you that since the day that she's been taken, both Cord, myself, and hundreds of other law enforcement officers have been spending countless hours upon hours trying to find this girl. And the family, I mean, they wake up during the middle of the night and their kid is gone, and they have no idea where she went. They think she's dead. We expected to find a corpse. And so your explanation so far as far as God delivering her to you makes no sense to me because it doesn't match up with the facts.
How was when the children of Israel were led into the promised land?
Let's keep it out of the Bible. Let's keep it to the present time.
There's no other way I can explain it. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, if you don't mind me if when you start to explain it, it makes no sense to me if I just cut into it.
Okay. Well, let me say, you just shared with me how her family suffered,
Mhm.
right? But when God's children become idolatrous and wicked, they've suffered many things. The whole history of mankind, the scriptures, is great suffering.
Mhm.
When they become idolatrous and wicked, they've been taken into captivity. They've been torn apart. They've been slain. Many things have happened to the Lord's children when they've been disobedient.
Time to bring it in for a landing because you're talking Bible stuff again.
Here
All
it comes
right.
in for a landing. When the children of Israel went into the promised land, they destroyed many peoples. And in many cases, they took the daughters captive and just destroyed all the men, women, and children except the daughters who were virgins. All the boys were destroyed, all the men and women were destroyed, and the only thing they took captive were the virgin daughters. That was the children of Israel when they went into the promised land. In some cities, the Lord commanded them to destroy totally, completely.
So where was your promised land located?
Well, the whole earth is the promised land for all of us. When the Lord,
But for you?
when the Lord comes in great power and mighty glory and might, He's going to destroy all the wicked and lift up the poor, the sick, and the afflicted, the humble followers of Christ. Lift them up.
That would have been a perfect opportunity for Ross to actually pipe in and say, yeah, so God gave you her. That there was a very good response to that, but he didn't go for it because I don't think he picked it up as quickly as he probably should have. I'm actually going to have to stop this video just here because I have to do a other thing on another video, but I shall continue this later. So yeah, I'll be back like that. I said just like that, we would be back. It's actually been, I think, about a week since I started this body language thing on Brian David Mitchell. So let's get back into it and catch up to where we're up to.
According to the gospel and the scriptures and the teachings of the Lord.
Right. Are you saying that because you are a prophet of God?
I never said I was a prophet of God.
I believe you did.
No, I didn't. I said I'm a servant of the Lord.
Because you were...
If the Lord, thou
Isaiah,
sayest, if the Lord,
it's Isaiah, you're talking all over me here, sir. Please.
There is a perfect example of how cult leaders actually talk to people, and this is how they get a lot of followers. Obviously, Mitchell has actually failed at that point, but he had started. So he had his first victim, and he would have raised more, hopefully, in the end. They were actually out scouting for more people, so he had those delusions of grandeur. But thankfully, he was caught. Unfortunately, he wasn't caught soon enough, but he was eventually caught. But here he is where there's double speak. You know, oh, I didn't say I'm a prophet. I am part of the Lord. You know, I'm this, I'm that, I'm everything else. So he throws things back as a question to make people make up their own mind, making them believe that what he actually said come from them and not from him.
Please relax.
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel, relax. Are you saying because you're a servant of the Lord that God provided you with a virgin to be your bride? Is that what you're saying? It's a yes or no question, Emmanuel.
I didn't say that. You can draw your own conclusions. You said you were talking about how our family suffered and you couldn't understand.
More double speak. So, you know, I didn't say that. You have interpreted that. So this is what they do. This is quite amazing how they're able to do this. And really, a lot of sermons are like this as well. So this isn't just unusual to cult leaders or religious fanatics. A lot of churches do this too. So it's about your own interpretation. So they put these seeds of thought into your brain, and then you actually come to the same conclusion that they want you to. And so then it's like, oh, I must be thinking the same way. You know, I must be a child of God and all of that.
You couldn't understand why
Emmanuel.
their family would have to suffer.
Emmanuel.
I'm saying that the Lord's children, there's much suffering.
So can we draw that conclusion that
Yes.
because you're a servant of the Lord,
God owed you a virgin for a while?
Absolutely not. You're making your own conclusion.
I'm asking you if that's
He asked, why did her family have to suffer? And I'm telling
Okay,
you...
we're beyond that. Let me get on to another factor, okay? We've been talking to this girl, and she said some really terrible things about you. And I just want to ask you some very direct questions that don't deserve an answer from theology, okay? Did you take this girl out of her house at knife point? Yes or no?
I'm not going to answer that question.
And why not?
Every time he feels uncomfortable, he actually swings his chair. So this is a stalling tactic. It makes it look like that he's actually thinking. He is probably thinking, but he's actually thinking in a different way to what we're expecting. It's not about, oh shit, how can I get out of this? Because he already has these non-answers, answers. That was my dog, I apologize. And they know the answers because they do have a living witness. And that's the amazing part of a case like this. And this is why I love doing these ones where we have victims who have been interviewed and testified about what's happened. But what we can see here is that he's been caught in conversations that he doesn't want to have, and so it's making him feel inferior, and that's definitely what he doesn't want to feel. He wants to feel like that he's in control, but he hasn't had control for this whole entire thing. And when the sheriff actually destroyed him earlier on, that was just the perfect opportunity. And so now he's continuously on the back foot, and he doesn't know what they're going to ask yet. They're jumping around. They're not actually doing any of this in chronological order to make sure that he doesn't have time to think, oh, they're going to ask me about this next, then this, then this, then this. If they did A to Z, it would give him the opportunity to plan out a lie, but instead they're asking him different parts. So then he doesn't have the opportunity to sort of create a narrative.
I just want to know why you don't want to answer. It's a
you
yes or no question.
you know.
Let me explain something to you, okay?
Okay.
You're not that far off, okay? We've been studying you now for a couple of weeks. You've been arrested for DUI, for some substance abuse way back in the 70s. You were arrested for burglary in San Diego last month, and you gave a bad name. You were stopped by the Sandy police this afternoon, and you and Wanda and Elizabeth all gave bad names, obviously in an attempt to evade the police. You were much more streetwise. You were much more streetwise than you were letting on to us now, okay? You have been around more.
I'm not letting on to anything else but what I am.
I think what you're doing here is you're thinking that You're going to lay some kind of insanity defense?
I'm not, absolutely not.
So you are saying.
So he was actually going to answer that differently and then come back and said, absolutely not. So they've just said, mate, you're a whack job. And we think that that's what you're actually going to play this defense as. And he's actually taken offense to that. So again, they're getting into him. They're doing these nitpicks. He wanted to be the leader of his flock. And he's been told now, you're, a drunk, you're a drug addict, you've been picked up for this and that, and car theft and drugs and alcohol and all of this sort of stuff. So we know that you're just a bum who thinks he's more important than he is. And we think that you're a whack job. And so he's actually finding out they're actually being very insulting to him. And he doesn't realize that they're trying to get a rise out of him. And they eventually do.
I'm saying to you that I am who I say I am. Emmanuel David Isaiah, the servant of the Lord.
Brian David Mitchell.
I am the servant of the Lord, and my name is Emmanuel David Isaiah.
Well, guess what? We're servants of the Lord too, only in a different track.
Here's the deal. Do you know what you're under arrest here for? You are under arrest for aggravated kidnapping because the girl told us that you took her against her will out of her house at knife point. You are under arrest for aggravated sexual assault on a minor. Both of these charges carry life imprisonment. You can be David Isaiah Emmanuel in prison for the rest of your life.
And the sheriff just then used his name in the wrong order. So he's basically saying, we don't care what you're saying. We have Elizabeth's story. We don't care what you're going to come up with. You can go and preach in jail. We don't really care because you're going to jail for life because you're awful.
That's very likely. This is your opportunity now to tell us what happened and why you did what you did. And instead, you keep sending us off on tangents that have nothing to do with the matters and the questions at hand. You are very likely to spend the rest of your life in prison. Now, that might not be important to you as a servant of the Lord, and you may think it's nothing, but let me tell you, you will never see Wanda again. You will never see Elizabeth again. You will never get out of prison.
You're talking about.
I'm talking about your future, Isaiah. I'm talking about your future here and now.
Would you please understand that God had power to deliver me?
Do you understand that you don't have an...
The FBI guy just huffed then. He's like, yeah, whatever you say, mate, the sheriff's got you, so just shut up.
Insanity defense because you've obviously lied to conceal your identity from the police?
It mattereth not what you're saying and how good you think this case is against me. It mattereth not. God hath power to deliver me out of the hands of all of my enemies.
Well,
Were your enemies?
The Lord said to Peter, get thee behind me, Satan.
Just talking Bible stuff again. I never even read it. I pretended like I did when I was in grade school, but I wasn't. I was reading comic books.
You said you were serving the Lord too. You were serving the Lord too.
That's right.
I can only answer you according to the words of the Lord.
All right, well,
He said to Peter, get thee behind me, Satan. Now, what was Satan at that? Was Peter at that moment his enemy? Yes.
I have to ask though, I mean, I'm laughing at this and it is a very serious thing and I understand that, but I'm laughing at it because they're not taking him serious. He's trying to preach. He's expecting people to stop and listen to what he has to say. The sheriff knows it 10 times better than he does anyway. And the FBI agent goes, I don't really care, never read it. I pretended to read it, but I didn't. I really have no care at all what you have to say about any of this. And it's just so funny that Brian David Mitchell is trying to prove that he has the power here. But that's why they're talking over the top of him, and they will continue to do this while he keeps sprouting this religious bullshit because it's got nothing to do with the case. It does according to him, but it doesn't in reality. He's Brian David Mitchell. He kidnapped a young girl at knife point from her house in the middle of the night and raped her for several months. That's the crux of this story. All the rest of this is bullshit, and they can sit there for as long as he wants to sit there and go through all of this, and they actually take breaks at really weird moments in this, which we will get to a lot later. This may end up being a very, very long video, but I think this is a good one to do because we do have a living witness, and that's so important. Often with these cases, we have bones, we have injuries on skeletons, maybe some flesh left, things like that. We don't have a living witness. So to be able to break down this is amazing. As you can see, he's actually sitting quite still, but he is still doing that swing of his chair. So this is all he's done so far. The two officers are sitting together on the other side. So they're showing a unity. And it is that physical barrier that there is between them, which is the table, just to sort of say that you're bad and we're good. But they're going to play this. It's just an amazing analysis.
Because we're all subject to deception. We're all subject to follow the wrong spirit and to follow our own.
Bring it from Landon, man. You're talking in circles. You're talking this biblical stuff. It makes no sense to anyone sitting in this room in the 21st century.
Emmanuel.
It doesn't.
I know it doesn't. Sure. And that's why great destructions are prophesied upon the whole face.
Emmanuel.
What is your name?
My name is Corden.
Corden?
I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm a Lutheran.
Okay.
I've read the Bible.
Right.
I've studied the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with prophets of God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with the great prophets. Elisha.
Okay. We'll just stop there for a second. I did say that I thought he was Latter-day Saints, but he obviously isn't. He is a Christian. He even declared that he is Lutheran. So he's trying to say, hey, same gods, same religion here. You know, let's go through this. But as you saw, Mitchell asked him for his name. So now we have it. It's called, and I should have known that from when we were doing this earlier. Now he is trying to build a rapport because Mitchell knows that Ross is out. So I'm pretty sure that's his name. The FBI agent has no interest in any of this, but Corden knows his Bible. Corden knows his Bible better than Mitchell does, and Mitchell believes that he's not a prophet, a servant of God. So he's going to go tit for tat on that. But that's why when Corden speaks, Mitchell actually faces him, whereas when Ross says, yeah, mate, don't care, he's actually dismissing him back.
Elijah. I'm unaware of any prophet that lied to conceal their identity.
Abraham. I'm not going to get into that.
I'm unaware of any prophet that took a girl out of her own house at knife point and forced her to marry him.
And then had sex with her.
Was Joshua a prophet?
Yes, he was.
Okay, then why did the children of Israel in the command of God go into the promised land and destroy many cities, and in some cases take the daughters?
If I recall my Old Testament, the Lord actually commanded them to destroy everybody.
There were
leave only the
instances-
livestock. Is that not true?
No. In some instances, the daughters were preserved. Those who were
In
virgins.
what cities? I'm unaware of that. The Lord commanded them to go into Canaan and wipe everybody out.
Yes, but there were instances where they took the daughters and sometimes the animals.
And I'm asking what instance?
You know what?
You said
Where
you
is
know
this
your Old
documented?
Testament. You
Why
say
are
you
you-
know your Old Testament, so where is it?
It's in there. You find it. It's in there.
That's like saying your mum. Really, he's at that point. He realizes that he needs to be vague because Corden's going to be specific. So we have these two going tit for tat. It's like if someone wants to go serial killer, Alice serial killer to me, I will come to that challenge. But Mitchell believes that he is the most learned man when it comes to Christianity, and Corden's just jumping all over him. So it is amazing how this works. We may need to jump forward because this does go on for quite a long time.
Oh, you don't know.
It's in there.
So maybe you haven't studied the Bible as much as you said you have, eh? So maybe this is all just bullshit, huh? Maybe this is all just about maybe this is all just about David Mitchell trying to get a young virgin for himself.
Do you know what? None of those who Christ called to be apostles were learned men. They were fishermen.
None of them were kidnappers either.
There's your learned.
None of them raped.
Isaiah, no angel's going to let you out of this room, man. There's nobody coming for you.
You know what? God will deliver me.
Was Elizabeth the first kid you ever had sex with?
The Lord God will deliver me.
Was Elizabeth the first child you ever had sex with?
You see, Isaiah, we've been doing some studying and talking to your ex-wife, Debbie. She says that you had some sort of sexual relationships.
She's lying, absolutely lying.
Are you sure she's lying?
She's absolutely lying.
What would motivate her?
So this is touchy. So when they're bringing up other people involved, so though this is very, very soon after his arrest, I think they even said it was today. It is interesting that they already have background from his ex-wife and everything, and they throw her name in there. And then they talk about him having sexual relations with someone whose name is redacted, obviously, because it is a child. And he's now getting a bit of a rise. So he's starting to feel a bit angrier. So they're actually knowing now that they've hit a chord. These two officers who really don't know each other are doing so good together. And it's amazing that they have almost like a song and dance together. This is a great interview to do. As you can see, he's still got his hands clasped. He does unclasp them sometimes. Again, Corden's talking, he faces Corden.
You're not.
All right, this isn't working.
Emmanuel.
Well, I'll start calling you Emmanuel when you start giving me answers to questions that I think are reasonable. Because right now, this God delivering her from the house is ridiculous.
There's the hands again. Trust me, come to me. I am your prophet. The open hands of being welcomed. Also a sign of resignation. So he is not liking the FBI agent at all.
Inside, you know what you did was wrong, and you're ashamed, and that's why you won't tell us. Prophets do not hide what their actions. They stand up for him and they answer for him. If God told you to do this, then you better tell us.
And they take responsibility for it too. It wasn't God that went in there.
It was God that went in there.
Through you.
God works through many ways in me.
Well, you're nodding your head. God through you.
I did not acknowledge that. I said God.
The officer said it before I did, so let's go back and watch him nod his head to the question while he's trying to deny it.
Even the voice. I mean, Mary Catherine, she recognized the voice. It just took her a while to figure out who it was. Because she'd heard it before. Because you'd done work at the smart home. So, it wasn't God that went in there.
It was God that went in there.
Through you.
God works through many ways in me.
Well, you're nodding your head. God through you.
Very,
I did not acknowledge that. I said
You were
God.
nodding your head.
I was not.
You're nodding your head.
I said God works through.
Brian, you were nodding your head.
God works through many ways in me.
I used to work with kids. I worked with kids that were horribly abused, sexually, physically.
I understand.
But I don't think you do, okay?
But
because to ask them to relive that. Hang on a second. I'm talking.
To relive what? She's had a glorious experience.
A glorious experience.
With you?
Are you telling me that for the past 9 months that she's been with you that it's been glorious?
It's been had many trials.
If you see just there, both of the officers sat back. That was them making a physical distance. They're recoiling in horror. Let's watch that again. Because Ross is trying to talk about that he worked with abused children, and he's really trying to make Mitchell feel uncomfortable. He's playing the bad cop in this. He's calling him Brian David Mitchell. He's not calling him Isaiah. Corden's calling him Isaiah. He's trying to show him in the respect that he's doing the good cop. Ross is doing the bad cop. But watch how they recoil here when he tries to justify the abuse as good.
I understand.
But I don't think you do, okay?
But
because to ask them to relive that. Hang on a second. I'm talking.
To relive what? She's had a glorious experience.
A glorious experience.
With you?
Are you telling me that for the past 9 months that she's been with you that it's been glorious?
It's been had many trials by His Holy.
Let us stop it there for a second. As you can see, we have so much more time to go on this. I am going to start jumping forward because I think that we've set some baselines here. But he's sitting so slouched down in that chair, and it's just interesting that he's not as rigid, because he really does believe he's actually going to get through this and there's going to be no issue. He really does think that he has this religious freedom to abduct a child and rape her. But let's just go a bit further forward.
Did you enter Elizabeth Smart's house and take her?
And make simple, direct accusations.
And we want a simple, direct denial or admittance. That's it. You know, the jury is going to listen to these proceedings. We're being recorded right now. Mm-hmm. The jury's going to listen, and they're going to say to themselves, if he had nothing to hide and if he really believed he was a prophet, why wouldn't he answer the most basic and simple of questions?
He's literally just taken off his shoes and put his feet up on a chair. This guy has no understanding that he is in a world of hurt. He just thinks that this is all fine and dandy. This, yes, could be used as a mental health thing, and I think they actually end up do try that in court. We will get to that. I apologize. My old dog is beside me and she's snoring. But hopefully you can still hear us all over this. So, but yeah, his feet are up. He has not a care in the world.
Why didn't Jesus?
We're not talking about Jesus. You are not Jesus.
I just want to say, he's smelly and disgusting. So that would have been ranked when he took off his shoes.
We're talking about Emmanuel.
I'm his.
Yeah.
You know, this is obviously word salad defense mechanism that you throw up whenever the questions get really, really tough. Okay? You just start wandering on about the scriptures and stuff, but it's obvious to me you talk about tactics and interrogation.
As you can see, Mitchell is about to set it up straight, and then watch what Ross does.
When the questions get too tough and uncomfortable, you just start wandering off.
I've never wandered. I've stuck right
Did you?
straight. Straight
Did
as
you
the
take
gate.
Elizabeth Smart out of her house at Knife Point? Yes or
Straight as
no?
the gate, and narrow was the way, and I have stayed on that straight and narrow path. And you talk about wandering, you guys are wandering all over the place. Trying everything and anything to
Watch Mitchell's response.
to get me to say something false. To say something false. And I will only speak the truth.
All right. Only speak the truth. Did you take Elizabeth Smart out of her house at Knife Point? Yes or no?
Your accusations are false.
Now he's facing.
Then you did not, and you are denying you took
Now,
Elizabeth out of her
in the
house.
teachings of Unibly, who's a great scholar in the church, he says that Satan will always accuse with the truth.
You know what I
Okay?
think? I think you're
He
getting
will
awfully
always-
uncomfortable now because you keep talking over the top of this. This is getting a little too intense for you, isn't it, Emmanuel? We're getting to the real hard questions, and you keep
Keep
retreating
pressuring
into
him
your
now.
spiel and your diatribe.
What did
Did
Christ
you
do?
take Elizabeth out of the house at Knife Point?
What
Yes
did
or
Christ-
no?
What did Christ do?
He didn't take Elizabeth out of the house at Knife Point.
He
Did
didn't
you
marry
take
women by
her?
holding knives to their throats. He didn't have sex with 15-year-old girls. He didn't tether girls to a campsite to keep them from running away. He didn't lie to police when they asked him who he was.
It's closing in.
He didn't
on
break into
time.
people's houses, and he wasn't a drunk driver.
I'm afraid that you know little of who Christ is and what he did, because
Well,
he is God. And he's
We're
done
not
many
talking
things
about
in
Christ. We're
his,
talking
Talking
about
about
you,
talking about
Emmanuel.
Brian
He's
David
talking-
Mitchell,
and his-
a.k.a. Emmanuel
and his
David
true-
Isaiah.
His true servants have done and do many things and still do many things that the world will kill them for.
I
They
hate.
have such
I
patience.
think we just have to get to the core of the problem here. And
So now Ross is going to take it up another notch. So for half an hour, he sat actually quite calm, just sort of played the smart ass and everything. Then he's moved closer to him, and now he's going to start getting angry. And now the FBI agent has, like, I'm going to say 50 pounds. I'm probably wrong there. 50 pounds on Mitchell, and he's got hide on him and everything. He's a very foreboding presence purely because of his height and his stature. Whereas Mitchell, because they panhandle to eat and things like that, is quite slight. So he's actually going to use that to his. Ross is going to use that to his advantage to sort of put more pressure on Mitchell.
I say you will.
You know what?
You will reap great shame and
you are
sorrow.
not the
If
worst.
heaven's filled with people like you, I'd be more comfortable in hell. Your story's bullshit. You took that 15-year-old girl out of her room at knife point,
You are in
hiked her into a canyon, you raped her, you kept her tied up at the campsite, you traveled around the country with her for 9 months, telling her that her name was some bullshit shear job Esther Isaiah crap, saying that she was your wife sealed unto God, and then when you get caught for it, oh my God, then all of a sudden she's been delivered to you by Christ.
And,
Christ,
and then they gnashed their teeth on him, on Christ, in
Well-
their anger and their accusation against the Lord. They gnashed their teeth on him.
You are not.
You tire me.
servant of Jesus.
You're not the servant of Jesus.
You are not. Jesus' servants do not take little girls.
They're being polite with their terms. They don't take the little girls, they rape her and everything. They should be using words like pederast and pedophile, child predator. There should be all these sorts of words being used. I'm probably going to get demonetized for using these words, but they're not using these stronger words. So we are not even halfway through this interview, but as you can see, they're getting closer and closer, and they're going to get even closer yet.
out of their house.
You're
in
a
the middle of the
child
night
raper.
And have sex with them. Let's face it, you are Brian David Mitchell, and you are a child molester.
A criminal.
A criminal who has done criminal acts, who cannot pass off his story by talking about Jesus.
You
are a fraud. You are a fraud, sir.
You're a hypocrite.
You are a hypocrite and a fraud, and this is bullshit. You are not a servant of Jesus Christ, and you need to get over that.
You can take that little simple smile off your face like you're some, servant of the Lord bullshit and stuff it, because we know the truth. The truth is that you went into her bedroom during the middle of the night, held a knife to her throat, and here's another thing Christ probably never did. I don't think he ever threatened to kill children.
Suddenly someone who never read the scriptures knows all about the scriptures and the Lord.
I went to church enough times to know that I never heard any sermons from my priest saying that, and then Jesus snuck into the bedroom at 2 o'clock in the morning and held a knife to her throat. That's bullshit.
Most churches and sermons and leaders seek for popularity, for power, for gain, for popularity, and to satisfy.
We're off the subject again. You're talking about the church, we're talking about Elizabeth.
This is what the church is.
This is so immature, and it's working. So they are wearing him out. So they're talking over the top of him. Then they know they're not going to get answers just yet. I don't even think they actually get the answers, but they know that he's trying to say something, and if they keep talking over the top of him, he's going to get exhausted, and they can keep going because they have the adrenaline of they've got the guy and they've won. Like that, they know regardless of what happens in this interview, they've won. So they have nothing to gain from this, but he has a lot to lose.
Brian, you're full of shit. You're talking about you.
Gain, popularity.
We're not talking. I don't care about the church right now. I want to be able to explain.
Oh, wait a minute. I think we just hit a nerve there. Let's talk about lust of the flesh.
You're talking about you.
Gain, popularity.
We're not talking. I don't care about the church right now. I want to be able to explain.
Oh, wait a minute. I think we just hit a nerve there. Let's talk about lust of the flesh.
The lust of the flesh are all of those things that you set your hearts upon other than Jesus Christ.
You know what? My heart's not upon screwing a 14-year-old girl.
Me neither.
I've never wanted to have sex
and
with
I never
virgin.
have either, and my heart's not set on that
you
either.
did.
My heart is not. I did not.
You did.
I did not.
I
did not.
Did not what?
Do what you just said. I did not.
Did not
You
do
took
what?
a 14-year-old virgin
to
your campsite, and you had sex with her against her will.
What you're
You and Wanda showed her how to do it, and then you made her do it.
What you're
and you had to
accusing me
tie her up at the camp.
Okay, I'm just going to stop it there purely because I want to go back and do this part again, so I don't want it to be too long. As you can see, he has gone from a smile, and they tell him you're an idiot with that stupid smile on your face, and then he brings up lust of the flesh, and Corden knows that he can go in on this one because he knows that this is an area that he goes, okay, now I'm going to challenge you on this. And Mitchell got angry. Now, Mitchell got angry. And so because the officers were already at that stage of anger, they've now had to increase it to keep on top of him. So the more angry he gets, they need to be at that next level up. They need to be that one spot that's further above what's going on, because they don't want him to relax in this. This is about exhausting him, and they're going to do it. So let's just go back.
We're on the subject again. You're talking about the church, we're talking about Elizabeth.
This is what the churches do.
Brian, you're full of shit. You're talking about you.
Gain, popularity.
We're not talking. I don't care about the church right now. I want to be able to explain.
Oh, wait a minute. I think we just hit a nerve there. Let's talk about lust of the flesh.
Sorry, it's interesting how Ross knows when to stop when Corden pipes in. So, as I said, this dance between these two officers that aren't from the same agencies is just amazing. So he's a Utah sheriff and he's FBI. So this is not the normal dance that would happen. So they would know how their own team would react. But this is going so well. And Ross knows when to be the dumb, hard-nosed FBI agent, and he also knows when to step back and let Corden come in with his respectful religious diatribe to actually match Mitchell. So sorry, but this is a good part.
Lust of the flesh are all of those things that you set your hearts upon other than Jesus Christ.
You know what? My heart's not upon screwing a 14-year-old girl.
Me neither.
I've never wanted to have sex
And
with
I
a
never
virgin.
have either, and my heart's not set
But
on that
you
either.
did.
My heart is not, I did not.
You
I
did.
did not.
Did
I
not.
did not.
Did not what?
Do what you just said, I did not.
Did not
You
do
took
what?
a 14-year-old virgin
I did
to
not.
your campsite and you had sex with her against her will.
What you're
You
accusing-
and Wanda showed her how to do it, and then you made her do it.
What you're
And you had
accusing
to
me of-
tie her up at the camp.
What you're accusing me of.
I'm accusing you. Look at me in the eye. I'm accusing you of being a child molester, rapist.
And your accusation is false.
Bullshit.
Bullshit.
It's the truth.
Say bullshit all you want.
We
Your
are.
accusation
And
is
guess
false.
what? I can say that, and I'm not going to feel any shame over it. Like you said, I'm
No,
going to
no,
feel
you
shame.
won't. You're lifted up in the pride of your heart.
You know what?
Thinking
I'm not going to
righteous.
feel any shame at all.
But you're going to feel great shame and great sorrow.
No, I don't think so.
No.
You know the sorrow I feel? The sorrow I feel is for the
See that physical assault? So this is how close they're getting, that Ross just touched Mitchell on the shoulder. And as you can see, Mitchell sort of turns away to try and take his hand off his shoulder. Just watch.
I'm going
No,
to feel
no, you
shame.
won't. You're lifted up in the pride of your heart.
You know what?
Thinking
I'm not going to
righteous.
feel any shame at all.
But you're going to feel great shame and great sorrow.
No, I don't think so.
No.
You know the sorrow I feel? The sorrow I feel is for the smart
The
family.
great destruction.
The sorrow I feel is for the smart family and a 14-year-old
I
girl
have
who
more
was taken out of her
I have
bed.
more compassion.
Bullshit.
I have more compassion for that family.
Then prove it and tell us the truth. Don't give me this God bullshit.
I have more
Bullshit.
compassion for that family.
Bullshit.
For,
Then prove it.
For
Tell us the
Jacob,
truth.
Esther, Isaiah. than
Tell
you.
us the truth.
I've told you nothing.
Tell us the truth. No, you haven't. You,
Brian.
I've
haven't.
told you nothing but
You
the
haven't
truth.
told us anything. If you want to show compassion for
So
that
is
family,
this- what
then
is
you can
this leading-
explain
what
it.
is this leading
This
to?
is me telling you that I think you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's that going to
Do you know what
continue and lead to?
So this has gone into levels of immaturity, which is working because they can play this game. They're basically down to, Mum, he's touching me. Mum, don't touch me. You know how kids fight in the back seat of the car. That's what Ross is now doing to see how long it would take for Mitchell to respond. And it did take him quite a while. I thought he would actually jump a bit sooner than that, but but he makes mention of it. So they know they're getting under his skin, and they know that if they continue going and he's continue talking, he can't listen to what they're saying and talk at the same time. Some people can't, I can't. If other people are talking, I need to listen to what they're saying and vice versa. So what we have here is that he's still talking. So it's they can talk and listen, but he can't. So he's just trying to continue, but he keeps stopping to hear what they're saying, and he's going to mess up, and he's going to slip up in what he has to say.
You know why I
don't
think
know.
you're full of shit, Brian? Listen, hear me out. You know what Jesus said about little children? He said that it is better for a man to tie a millstone around his neck and jump in the lake and drown himself,
And that's why I
rather
feel
than
very-
harm one hair on
And
your
that's why
head.
I feel so sorry for all of you that are doing
No.
this to Jacob, Esther.
No,
It
you
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what
This
we
is
do
what
here.
you're doing to her. What you're doing to her.
I really struck a
is-
nerve there, didn't I?
What you're
Yeah.
doing to her. What
I
you're
struck
doing
That
to
was
her.
right out of the Bible.
You have harmed a girl. You have harmed a child.
You're-
You have gone against Jesus
what?
Christ's written orders.
You're harming her.
No,
No.
we didn't have sex.
We brought her home to her family. You
You-
took a girl and you harmed
I
her.
saw her. I saw her with her dad. Guess what?
Contradiction to Scripture.
I don't doubt but what she was crying.
Why would she be crying? She must be, somewhat distraught after past 9 months of living with you,
Jesus Christ.
having to have sex with you. I mean, how often do you shower?
I mean, I said this before, this guy reeks because he doesn't shower. And so Ross has just thrown that in. Ross is playing the 13-year-old boy who's trying to annoy his older brother, and Mum's in the front seat trying to shut them all up. This is what's happening, and this is what's working, because Mitchell's response is so base. Like he's just going to those base diatribes that he learnt once. It's like that he got his Bible off the back of a cornflakes packet, and that's how he's actually going. He wasn't expecting Corden to know it well enough, and to show how basic his theological knowledge is, that Ross is keeping up with him and coming back at him, and he's saying, for someone who doesn't know their Bible, that like you're sprouting things at me, because it's just proving how basic Mitchell's own intelligence in these theories are.
You've done a horrible thing, and you're justifying it in your own mind by saying the Holy Spirit did it.
What the two of you are doing is
The
a terrible-
Scriptures say that
what
you
are
have
doing-
sinned.
What you are doing is sin. And what you were
You
doing.
have
is a
sinned
terrible
a
thing.
great sin.
I have been obedient unto God
You have
Almighty.
sinned,
God
and
told you
God
to
I
have
have,
sex with
against the
been, I have been
commandments.
obedient to God Almighty.
God told you to have sex with her?
Can
You
you see how?
have sinned.
Can you see how he's leaning away from Ross now? So I hope his name is Ross because that's what I've been calling him. As you can see, he's leaned slightly away, but he's still in this relaxed stance at the moment. Okay, let's get Ross going at him a bit.
You're trying to
are
put
a
words in
fraud.
my mouth.
Did God tell you to have sex with
Your
her?
accusations against
That's
me
a
are
simple
false.
question, yes or no?
Your
Did God tell you to have sex with
I
her?
told you your accusations against
I'm not
me are
accusing you, I'm
false.
asking you a question.
Your accusations are
It's a
false.
question. Did God tell you to have sex with her?
Your questions are false.
Did God tell you to have sex with her?
Your questions are false.
Is she the only child that God's ever told you to have sex with?
Your questions are immaterial.
It's
They make
something
no
that,
sense.
then give me an
They make no
answer,
sense.
yes or no.
Because I never said God told me to do any such thing, and He never did.
Oh, wait
So
a minute.
God never told you to have sex with her.
God,
So this is why Gordon's really good and he listens to every little tweak because Mitchell is now running out of things to say, and which is why he's doing a lot of this repetitive over and over again with God delivered her and all of this. But Corden is picking up those little extra bits he adds in here and there to see that they've struck a nerve. They don't necessarily have to strike a nerve, but it's just enough that he goes, and just throws off his own choreography.
I told you to take her as your wife. You told us that just a little while ago.
Exactly, and that's all I told you.
So
But she's
you
a child.
decided to have sex with her.
I told you
Don't
that
face
I
the
was.
law.
I
Hang on a
told you.
second.
I told you that I was obedient unto the Lord God.
And look at us when you talk
in
to us.
receiving her.
Why are you shutting your eyes when you talk to us?
I told you that I was obedient.
So Mitchell's now shutting down. Obviously, we can't see because the clarity, as most police interviews are, is appalling. I don't like. I have a little cheap camera right here, and it does a better recording than theirs does. But anyway, so we can't see. So we do need to listen to these verbal cues that we are getting from the officers. But yeah, so he's shutting his eyes now. So he's now shutting down. He's exhausted, and he's going to get more tired by the end of this.
Unto the Lord God Almighty in receiving her
Okay.
as my wife.
So God didn't tell you to have sex with her, He just told you to receive her as her wife. As your wife.
That's all I told you that God told
Okay.
me.
So then you took it upon yourself to have sex with her.
Your accusations are false.
I'm asking.
Your accusations.
Okay.
are
So you've
false.
never had sex with her.
Your accusations are false. In what you're accusing me of, there's no truth.
So you have not had sex
In
with
your
her.
words, in what you're accusing me of, there's no truth.
You know, you're just so full of shit. You can't even look me in the eye when you talk to me. Look me in the eye like a man when you tell me your lies, okay?
So now he's going at his masculinity. So they've played the child molester card and everything. So now they're saying you're not even a man. So this is all just things to make someone who believes that they're a leader become a weak, pathetic follower.
You're not looking at him.
You're not looking at me. Did you have sex with Esther, yes or no, as your wife, that God said was okay to do? Did you or did you not? Yes or no?
How are you determining?
Look me in the eye when you
Don't
talk
answer
to me.
like Bill Clinton. Answer the question. Did you have sex with her?
You can't even look me in the eye.
Now you're
man.
look up here. Give one of us eye contact and you answer the question.
Why should I submit to your control of me?
Well, you
Why
know
should
what?
I
Because
submit to
Elizabeth
your-
had to submit to your control for 9 months.
Why should I submit to your accusations?
Why should
Because
Elizabeth submit to your control?
In your eyes are
Closer
your
again.
accusations.
Why should Elizabeth
your
submit to your
contempt, your contempt,
Why should Elizabeth
your
submit
hate,
to your control?
your ridicule, your condemnation.
Why?
Your,
You're damn right we condemn guys who have sex with
and
15-year-old
so I'm
girls.
supposed to look in your eyes and receive that hate, that condemnation.
because
You know,
God gives an answer.
you know I've been looking into both of your eyes.
No, you haven't.
I have.
Oh, yeah, now when you're telling me, now you are. Okay, so let me ask you this.
But why should I submit to your control and look in your eyes when you tell
Why
me
should
to?
Elizabeth submit to your control? Why should Elizabeth submit to your control?
Just look.
You want to talk about control? Why should Elizabeth submit to your control? Why should she leave her house?
I never controlled her.
You never had sex.
This is putting on pressure. So as you can see, he's turned his chair away. He's slumped down. Now that slumping was before almost a relaxation, that he wasn't upset. Then he sat up straight, and now he's slumping down because now he's trying to decrease his size. He is feeling the weight of this room. He's actually drowning in what's happening, and his rhetoric isn't swaying either of them, not even an inch. In fact, it's actually working against him. And that's what Corden keeps picking up on. We've struck a nerve there, we've struck a nerve there. Now he won't even look at them, that he's shutting down from them. So they're putting on more pressure, as we can see. I mean, this is one of the few interviews where there is physical closeness that actually occurs. Usually they stay at the other end of the table. They might sit closer to them to show them something. When we did the Arias thing, we had her sitting close, and then we had Flores sitting close as well. But in this one, we have both of these men getting into his personal space. Now, we are talking about a man, Mitchell, who was living on the land. So he wasn't actually a person that was in the hustle and bustle as most people sort of live. So this closeness, this physical closeness is a threat. And so it's to put this pressure on to make him slip up even further.
Sex with Esther, yes or no?
What was your name again?
Parks.
Parks.
Answer the question.
Parks.
You didn't have sex with
Parks.
Elizabeth, yes or no?
All I've done has been out of obedience to the Lord God Almighty.
So did you have sex with her, yes or no?
According to your question, no, I did not.
You did not? She
I did
says
not.
that you did.
I did not.
Is she lying?
Your question is false. I did.
So this is a lose-lose situation. So if he says that he didn't have sex with her, then it's saying that he is saying that Elizabeth is a liar. If he says that he did have sex with her, then he's a child molester. So there is no right answer he can give here to take this pressure off. So they can continue with this pressure, because however they force an answer out of him, it's going to get more heat.
You need to defend yourself. You did not have sex with Esther. Look me in the eye.
I'm looking at Parks, I'm looking you in the eye, and I say to your question, no.
You did not have sex
I
with Elizabeth.
I say to your question, no.
Good. Now we're finally getting somewhere. Did you enter Ed Smart's house on June the 4th? Yes or no? Look me in the eye. Don't go away. Even if it's, if you want to deny it, that's okay. We want your story. But you keep closing your eyes and refusing to answer. Did you enter Ed Smart's house?
Your
As
question.
you
Yes
see,
or no?
Yes or no? Simple.
Ross
Look me
just
in the
got
eye.
closer
Did
as
you
well.
or did you not? I want a denial or I want an admission. Either one is fine with me. Did you enter Ed Smart's house on June the 4th in the night? Yes or no, Brian?
My name is Emmanuel.
Emmanuel.
David Isaiah.
Open your eyes and look at me. Did you enter Ed Smart's house June the 4th? Yes or no? Yes or no? It's a yes or no question.
You know you want to answer yes or no.
If you want to stand for your actions as a prophet of God, it's time to answer. Yes or no?
You don't respect me as such.
I do
No.
not.
No, you do not.
Because you lied to me. You won't even look me in the eye when you lie to me.
And I've never said that I was a prophet of God.
No, you said you were a servant of the Lord.
I said I was a servant of the Lord.
So as a servant of the Lord, did you
So they're
enter
answering
Ed
for
Smart's
him.
house on the night of June 4th? Ed Smart's house on the night of June 4th and take Elizabeth from her bedroom at knife point?
All of
Yes or
Yes
no?
or no? You just want an answer to the question.
And then we can move on.
To what?
It's a yes or no answer.
Yes or no?
You're thinking, Brian. You're not answering. Truthful answers don't need to be thought out ahead of time. Every
I've
time
already,
you look down and
do you know
close your
what?
eyes
Do
and
you know
close your
what?
mind.
Do you know what? I've already answered that question
No, you
over
haven't.
and over
No,
again.
You have not. You've never once answered the question.
Yes, I have.
You've been evasive and you've gone off on
I
tangents.
said that your question.
No,
your question
your eyes
is
are shut again.
I say that your question is an accusation.
No, the question is, did you, on the night of June 4th, go into the Smart house
Your question.
and take Elizabeth Smart
Your
from her bedroom?
question is an accusation.
The question is a question, nothing more. It deserves a yes or
And
no answer.
I told you, I already answered you according to the Spirit of the Lord.
No, you didn't.
Almighty.
You did not answer
You
the
didn't answer
question.
the question.
I told you.
You didn't answer the question.
I told you I did. I did
No,
answer the question.
you didn't. You tell me that you answered it, but you didn't answer
Wait a
it.
minute,
I answered
wait a
the
minute.
question according to what the Lord God Almighty put into my heart.
Did you just say that you did?
I said I answered your question according to what the Lord God Almighty put in my heart to say.
Well, the Lord God Almighty put into your heart nothing because your answer was evasive.
That's your accusation that I was being evasive. I know I'm being truthful.
No, sir. My accusation is that you are a burglar and child rapist.
And
Those
kidnap.
are my accusations, and I'm waiting to hear your explanation.
And I'm telling you and testifying to you that I am a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ. It's
Sir.
not a question, but that's what you're saying.
That's a yes or no question. You know, your words are now getting into gibberish because, Brian,
Now Gordon's coming around.
I think we're getting to you. We're getting to the very core of Brian Mitchell, who is not It was not
Look how close
David,
it's getting.
Isaiah, Emmanuel. You know, you're really Brian Mitchell. You know,
This is like Job.
no, it's not.
This is like Job.
You're nothing like him.
This is like
him. You're not a serial
Russell, I have no
with
idea
his
what you're
best
talking about.
friends, and you're not my best friend.
Job didn't kidnap girls.
You'd like me to think you.
Job didn't kidnap 14-year-old girls and have sex with
Right.
them.
Job had his best friends come to him to convince him that he had sinned.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Now,
talk to
when you do that, you see, you're assaulting me.
I just want you to look
You're
at me.
assaulting me. He assaulted me. Now you both
This is
physically.
assaulting you?
Yes.
There's no intent. There's just intent to get you to look in my eyes.
No, both of those were assaults.
Brian,
You grabbed my chin.
You know what else
and
is assault? You know what else is assault? Putting a knife to a 14-year-old girl's throat.
You poked me, and he took
And
my
you
chin
took a
and turned
knife and
towards
held
him.
it to Elizabeth's throat and took her out of the house and raped her and kept her for 9 months. You tied her down so that she couldn't run away from
Your
you.
accusations
It's
are
not-
false.
that's-
So what's just happened there is that he has just played the victim card. You've assaulted me and you've assaulted me. And he was expecting a denial for that them to go, no, we didn't. Instead, they went forward with more, and Ross is actually poking at him and everything, and then says, yeah, but how about Elizabeth? She's the victim. So that narrative has been turned again, regardless of what Mitchell had to say. He was not going to get a right answer.
That's not an accusation. That's a truth.
That's fact.
Your
That's a fact.
accusations are false.
That's a fact. And you want to talk about me doing this when you're taking your dick out and having sex with a 14-year-old girl against her consent?
Your
Sorry, I'm not laughing at the event. I'm not. And please don't take this as stuff. I'm laughing at the crudeness that they're using to try and incite a response from Mitchell that's different to what he's giving. So it's quite amazing that this is how it's happening. And I don't know. It's just I find the humor in it because they're being childish, because he's being childish.
accusations are false.
So she consented to it.
I have only done what the Lord God Almighty commanded me to do.
Lord commanded you to have sex with a
He
14-year-old girl?
commanded me to receive Shirjation.
What does that mean, to receive a girl?
To receive her.
What does it mean to receive her? What does that entail?
Brian, you're hiding
I
behind your
can't.
closed
I
eyes.
can't talk anything to you about what it entails. About what anything entails beyond what the Lord God puts in my heart to say.
So when he says receive her, what do you do? God tells you to receive her as your wife. What do you do? What do you do?
You're asking me to talk about things which are sacred and holy.
What did God tell you to do?
Oh,
You're asking me.
Brian,
you're asking
let's
me-
call bullshit on that right away, Brian. Let's call bullshit on that.
Emmanuel, David, Isaiah.
All right.
Emmanuel,
You're
I'm
asking
calling
me.
bullshit
we're
on that,
talking
Emmanuel.
about sex.
Shut
You're
it
asking
down.
me to talk about things.
So as you can see there, he's literally folding over. So he's now shrunk even further, and he's trying to avoid any contact as these men just get closer and closer and closer. As I said, this is one of the few interviews I've actually done where they have this physical closeness.
Things which are sacred and holy.
And
So it was holy to have sex with her.
sacred and holy.
Sacred and holy to have sex with a 14-year-old girl?
What you asked was, what does it mean to receive her?
Yeah.
That's all you asked.
Okay, well, give me an explanation.
All I did is say, when you asked me the question, what does it mean to receive her? My answer was, you're asking me to speak about things which are sacred and holy, which I cannot talk about.
And I'm calling bullshit on it.
So am I. I call that a
You're calling
cop-out.
bullshit. You know, you're
Call
copping
it.
out.
You believe in what you're doing, and you like to do a good job, both of you. And what you believe is all the things you accuse
See how
me
he's
of.
turning away?
So you're working really hard.
Elizabeth accused you of it
You're
too.
working really hard.
Elizabeth accused you of it too.
You're working really hard.
Though. How come when we asked Elizabeth what happened, she didn't say that she was delivered to Emmanuel, David, Isaiah by the Lord, and then accepted?
I can just imagine why she would say the things you want her to say.
Well, no. We just simply asked her, "Where have you been?"
Can just point out though, he's asked Corden Parks his name, but he hasn't asked the FBI agent his name once. So he has no respect for him, but he has respect for Corden Parks for his theological knowledge. So it's just an interesting thing to point out.
You just imagine why she would say the things
We don't
you
want
want
to
her
know.
say.
You know,
Brian, I talked to Elizabeth out at the Sandy police station. I had a little short interview with her out there. She told me that you, not not anyone else, not an angel, but you, appeared in her bedroom and held a knife on her and took her out of the house under threat of harming her family, and that you walked her to a campsite where Wanda was, and that you tethered her and kept her for days, that you and Wanda demonstrated to her how to perform sex, and then that she was forced to have sex. Walked her to a campsite where Wanda was, and that you tethered her and kept her for days, that you and Wanda demonstrated to her how to perform sex, and then that she was forced to have sex with you. Brian, these are not the actions.
Well, Dougie, I say it's my name, and here it again. See,
I want
you're
to,
not. I'm
you're
not
changing
honey.
the subject, Brian.
I'm not honey to you.
You know,
I'm not. You're not being a friend to me.
Was honey to you?
This is intimidation.
Was honey to you?
He
No.
called hun to me. He said
Okay.
hun.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
You
And
see,
you know what?
Let me ask this, Emmanuel.
And
whenever
you're putting around your arm around me is not that of the arm of a friend.
Is this anything worse though than what you did to Elizabeth?
What are you?
So he played the victim card again, and bang, they threw it back at him instantly.
I'm asking you a question.
All I'm saying is what I did. I did.
And
You did what? Oh, you almost did. You almost answered a question.
You know, Brian, whenever we get too close to the
I
truth,
told you.
Out comes the Bible.
out comes the Bible.
I told you to get another drink of water.
Dan was still with the beard and the long brown hair.
I've never said that I was. I need to use the restroom again if that's possible. And get another drink of water if that's possible.
Yes, that's possible.
So he's at a rock and a hard place. So he's actually asking for a break, which at this point they should have said no, but they kind of can't because they had him on the precipice. But his response to that was to step back, and so they have to actually go that way because he has requested a drink and a toilet break, which he's obviously that's a human right.
I come I need thee every hour. Enjoy.
Watch what Corden does.
Did you sing this to Elizabeth?
No, we sing it in church. I've never, however, sang it at a campsite where I had a 14-year-old girl tethered up
Right before you had sex with
right
her?
before I raped her.
I need.
Did you ever sing it before you held a knife to a 14-year-old girl's throat?
No, I
No,
never
neither did I.
Every hour I need.
Yeah, you're gonna need something.
Oh, bless me now, my Savior. I come to.
This is great what Corden does here.
Are you going to come to the
I
Savior?
need thee every
Emmanuel,
hour.
it's time to talk, Emmanuel.
Most
Emmanuel.
holy.
Emmanuel.
Make me thine indeed.
How many more verses is it to this song? Because I grew up Catholic, we don't have
There's
this
about
one.
4.
4? So what, this is what we've been through 2?
I need.
Emmanuel, we're going to wait right here while you hide in your song. But when you're done singing, you're going to have to come out and talk to us.
You can't sing forever.
Hour I need.
You can't sing forever.
I come to thee
Emmanuel.
because I have been given much, I too must give.
How about giving us the truth?
Because I have thy great love, dear Lord, each day I live. I shall divide my gifts from thee with every brother that I see, who has a need of help from me. Because I have been sheltered, fed by thy good care, I cannot see.
I'm actually waiting for digital
others
photos.
like
Okay.
I'm waiting for Jason to come with his
Gotcha.
camera and take pictures.
I thought you were waiting for Amazing Grace.
No. We can wait for that too. I'm just waiting for Jason to get here and do his
Or Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. He doesn't know the rest of the words.
That's the problem with Brian, is he puts on the airs of being a great Christian, but when it comes down to real substance, I'm afraid there's no substance to him. I'm going to go see where Jason and his family is.
All right.
I'll share thy word again according to thee. I'll share thy...
Yeah, you got hung up on that one. That's a tough note.
Cease to make me.
In fact,
So by him taking that break, he's actually refreshed, and so he's now come with this new tactic. So this is why sometimes it's not good to take a break, but they kind of have to. So yeah, because it's now given him a second wind, and though they're still taking the piss out of him, for Americans that just means taking the mickey out of him. He isn't as he's not feeling as trapped as he was during the last part of the interview.
you've been rather bad, Brian. You've sinned against a child, Brian.
God forgives sinners.
God will not forgive some sins. And you know, harming children is one of the sins that will not be forgiven, Brian.
I draw myself apart, searching.
You know, this is a great mechanism that you come up with here, but it's only going to go on for so long. You need to talk to us. And honest to goodness, let's take an attack. We are here.
Get thee behind me,
We're
Satan.
on your side.
Get thee behind me, Satan.
No,
Get thee behind me, Satan.
you come up with here, but it's only going to go on for so long. You need to talk to us. And honest to goodness, let's take an attack. We are here.
Get thee behind me,
We're
Satan.
on your side.
Get thee behind me, Satan.
No,
Get thee behind me, Satan.
I'm not Satan, and I'm right here.
The power of
According
Christ.
to
Get thee behind me, Satan.
And I
I
want
think
a
he said
rational
yes, that's
explanation.
very
for your
Get thee
action.
behind me, Satan.
If you're a prophet of God, strike me
Get
dead.
thee behind me, Satan.
You have no power.
Get thee behind me,
You
Satan.
have no power, Brian.
Get thee behind me, Satan.
You have no power,
Get
Brian.
thee behind me, Satan.
You do not speak for Jesus, Brian.
This is his new defense
You do
mechanism.
not speak for Jesus. You have no power over me. You have no power over anybody. You are not a servant of the Lord because you have sinned. You have harmed a child in direct contradiction to Jesus Christ's commandments. You need to evaluate your life here, Brian. We want your explanation of what happened. That's all we want.
And then we're out of your hair.
And then we're out of your hair. But you have to come back to the secular world for a few minutes, and you have to explain your actions, because we need to explain your actions.
Yeah, it was dark, so I turned the flash up. We're going to take another disc and then
Go away.
pick whichever ones they like.
Go away, Craig Ruff, go away.
Oh, sorry.
Okay? We have to get down to the real core of Brian, and we have to give us a secular explanation of what happened. You don't have any power here. You don't speak for Jesus Christ. You have done things that are sins and in direct contradiction to scriptures. You know, we actually don't hate you. We really don't.
We just want an explanation for what happened so we can bring it back to the family.
You know, honest to God, you do have to sit up straight, and you do have to take some responsibility for your actions. And if you don't think that you were doing anything wrong, then we're going to hear that too, okay? Yeah, we have been bad, we have belittled you, and we have called you a fraud, and we've done all kinds of things because you haven't been truthful with us, and you haven't given us explanations. We're really ready to listen. We have to hear your story to go tell the judge.
Listening.
Okay. So will you talk to us? Brian, come out of there. Will you talk to us?
Listen, we're going to have a lot more patience. We've waited 9 months, and we cannot wait you on this. So seriously.
We don't love you, Brian.
I know you don't. I know you hate me.
I don't hate you.
I hate what you did.
And I forgive you.
Hey, listen,
I don't forgive you, Brian. You have no power to forgive me.
Brian.
You have no power to forgive sins on earth. That power only belongs to God. Don't forgive me. I don't want your forgiveness. You don't have the power to grant it. You think that you are morally superior because you've convinced yourself that the Holy Ghost speaks to you and only to you. And Brian, that's just a fraud. That's a lie. You have
He's actually shut down. The rest of the interview pretty much does very little.
Change your name.
You want to talk to your mom about you quite a bit.
Oh, but she didn't come willingly, so you had to tie her down, hold a knife to her throat, threaten her little sister. And now this is your chance to take responsibility for your stuff, for your actions. You sit there, you sing church hymns, you quote scripture, shut your eyes. It's pretty powerful.
Well, the problem is you don't seem to know your scriptures as well as you think you do.
Well, as well as courting.
Special and all that, but as soon as we separated Elizabeth from you, I mean, the very second I sat down with her in Sandy, she started to give you up. She gave you up. She didn't even hesitate. And you know what she thinks of you? She thinks you are a child rapist. You took her virginity from her. You took her out of her own house, away from her own family, and did the most vile and unspeakable act a grown man can ever do to a child. Elizabeth doesn't like you. She doesn't like you. She's talking about you right now. Okay?
So is your wife, Wanda.
You're nothing special. Elizabeth doesn't like you at all. She found you actually rather smelly and disgusting. You know that, Brian? Your family, for all eternity, Wanda and Elizabeth, they don't even like you.
That's got to be tough.
Oh, yes, Elizabeth is Elizabeth. She ain't Jeshua.
Sure, J-ship.
Right? That's what a bunch of horseshit that is. You're,
Did you actually think that this biblical explanation was going to work? Because, I mean, as soon as we walked in, it was almost like it was scripted.
I'm sure that Brian has been thinking about what would happen when the gravy train came to an end and the police finally got on to him. Because I'm sure that even in your thinking, Brian, you know that the good times wouldn't last forever.
You had to have an exit strategy. And it's not like...
And this is it. The only problem is we've debunked your fantasy life about being a prophet of God. It would have worked had you stood up and told the truth whenever you were contacted by the police. You know, a jury would have believed you. But since you deliberately lied 3 times I'm aware of now to cover your identity, I don't think any jury's going to believe that you're really all that crazy, are they, Brian?
Shut down.
Yeah.
So this actually continues. As you can see, we're almost at the end of the tape, but he does not speak again. He has no interest in talking, and it's just over. Taking that break broke the momentum that they had with him, so it's done. So the songs didn't work, and he just has completely shut down. So thank you. Oh, look at my hair. I've been playing with it throughout that interview. So that is the end of the Brian David Mitchell interrogation. He really, in that last third, doesn't say much. He was able to break that momentum that they had, and it was easy for him to then shut down again because the anger had gone. He'd had a break, he'd had a drink and everything, and he was done. But this just shows that when they have a living witness, that they don't actually have to pressure them for their side of the story. That was basically just playing cat and mouse. It was just a bit of fun, basically, because they wanted him to sort of come out with his side of the story to make sure that he believed what he believed, and they were able to poke holes in his theory completely and utterly, and having Elizabeth's full story made it a lot easier too. That was assault. Technically, they did lay their hands on him, and so it can play that way, but obviously it was about them putting that much pressure on. They were, knee to knee with him, both of them. We had Corden Park standing up and leaning over him and shouting in his face. He would close his eyes. He would bunker down in his chair. So this is basically he's a wounded dog. he thought he was all that and he wasn't. And Gordon Parks was able to poke so many holes in his theology that it was just laughable. And I do apologize for laughing. It wasn't laughing at this case, but laughing at how bullshit this man was and how much fun they had just basically destroying him and breaking down all these things that he'd built up about himself. They were able to break down and just say, you know, you're basically pathetic. But anyway, I will stop here. This will be a very long episode. It was done in 2 pieces purely because I started the other day and then I had a lot of other stuff to do for uni and everything, but I'm back. So anyway, I hope that you enjoy this. I hope that you've learned a bit from this. We actually did a breakdown of the interview itself on the podcast, Monsters Who Murder. So I'd love for you to check that out. But until next time, just enjoy. Come and chat to me on the Facebook pages. I am around, so just look up Monsters Who Murder there as well. My name's Amanda Howard, in case you didn't know. And I will talk to you on the next video. So thank you. Bye.